Who were posting anti-white hatred attacks on gamers and death threats to MAGA. And their article says BioWare veteran calls out the cruelty of fans celebrating layoffs. You are crossing a line. You're probably attacking the wrong person anyway. What the hell? BioWare veteran calls out cruelty of fans celebrating layoffs. You're probably crossing a line and you're probably attacking the wrong person anyway. You don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at all. Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but alright. Kind of implied. Okay. Mark Dara is a true BioWare veteran, having worked at the studio for 24 years before returning in a consultancy role to shepherd Dragon Age the Veilguard. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah! Wow! Wow! Huh, okay, let's keep reading. He's now a freelancer once more and has been using some of his time to post YouTube videos about both the company's history and future in what he calls an unprecedented time for BioWare. Yeah, because they used to be amazing and now they kind of blow. Yippee! Dyer's latest video, however, has it as a subject the more toxic elements of video game fandom, which are much more of an issue for developers than some people might think. Oh, here we go. Take pity on me, I'm a game dev. I get more hate than anybody. Jesus Christ. In a 2023 GDC survey of game developers, 91% of respondents said abuse from players was a problem. Chat, every time someone abuses me on YouTube, it's a problem. No! The thing we did is being done to us. It sucks. I mean, again, I can't help but take this like less and less seriously because this person is complaining and saying, wow, the gamers are toxic when this happens like pretty much everywhere else. I'm not even gonna lie. I get this too. I don't care that much. Like, chat, like, be realistic. Do you think everybody gets hate? Even the most wholesome people? I've said this before. Even the nicest, most wholesome, friggin' adorable little VTuber probably gets hate. I think so. They probably do. Okay, anyway, he made a video complaining about it and saying, your $70 doesn't buy you cruelty. Cruelty is subjective and also a very emotional word in my opinion, but let's see what he has to say as a former game dev and consultant for Dragon Age the Veilguard.
Did it say something like your $70 doesn't buy you cruelty? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. The fact that you bought a game that you didn't like doesn't give you the right to be cruel.
How would you know if someone bought it and then they were mean after the fact because they thought the game sucked? How do you distinguish those people? Again, this is like kind of like almost like internal like thought policing in my opinion.
Or unkind to the people that developed that game. Now, I'm going to be clear about something. I'm not saying that you have to like the thing you bought. I'm not saying even that you aren't allowed to complain about the thing you bought.
Sure.
You can have whatever opinion that you feel like towards a game. Even if that opinion is stupid and wrong, you are entitled to that opinion. And to some degree, you're entitled to express that opinion to the corporation, to the video game studio that created this game that you bought. You paid 70 of your own dollars for this game and it disappointed you. And you're angry about that. That is fine. You are entitled to be angry about it. And you're entitled to express that anger in certain channels.
What do you mean by certain channels? Is the YouTube comment section like allowed? Is that disallowed? Yeah, I don't know.
You are mad at that Ubisoft
channels.
Game. Be mad at Ubisoft. Express your anger to Ubisoft or to.
And this is where I have to softly disagree, because directly saying it to Ubisoft doesn't hold any of the people that made the game accountable, because the game company is made up of thousands of people. Whose fault is it then? If it's not one of the devs or the game director or the person that published the game, like, who are you supposed to like yell at?
To the studio that
or
made the game.
To.
But you cross a line when you start being cruel about it. So why?
What does cruel mean, though?
Am I saying you don't get to be cruel because you spent $70? Let's walk through it.
Again, what is cruel, though? Like, if I paid $70 for a meal at a restaurant, and I pay them $70 because I have to as an obligation, and then I write them a critical review saying that they suck shit and that they should kick rocks and should fire the chef. Like, I don't understand that. I don't. Yeah, criticism police. You're not allowed to criticize us like that, Chatta.
One, you shouldn't be cruel at all. What are you doing? It's a video game. You don't.
Let's assume death threats, but he's not saying death threats. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Because he titled the video "Doesn't Buy You Cruelty." He doesn't define it. I totally agree. Nobody should get that. But saying someone sucks is also, like, could be considered cruel.
Need to go out of your way to cause harm to other people because of a video game that you don't like. Again, I'm not saying you're not allowed to be angry about it. I'm not saying you don't get to express your dissatisfaction with the content of the game that you're not enjoying. But
Sure.
when you climb into someone's personal social media and start actively attacking that person, when you celebrate layoffs at a studio because the game that you don't like didn't do that well, you're crossing a line into
I wouldn't say that celebrating people losing their jobs is cruel. Yeah, I think that insulting them directly and telling them to neck, I think that's crossing a line, but laying someone off is, like, not that cruel. Like, would you consider it cruel if someone you don't like got laid off at work? Like, someone, like a guy or a girl that you don't like. Is that considered cruel, and you're, like, celebrating in your house and you're like, yes, I'm so happy that person got laid off for doing a shitty job? I feel like that's not any different than quote-unquote gamers celebrating that the person making a shitty game got laid off.
being cruel. And fundamentally, you should have more grace for other human beings. But if you're not buying that, let's go on to point 2.
Okay.
You don't know what caused the results that you don't like. Let's go through.
What? Who said? What do you mean, the mountain of evidence of the game industry collapsing? No, like, what?
Through an example. Let's say that you don't like the line delivery on a piece of dialogue. Is that the fault of the voice actor? It might be, but it could.
No, not directly. It could be their fault, but it could also be the director's fault for not retaking it, which means that they didn't want to put in the effort of making the VA deliver the line, and maybe they didn't have enough time. Yeah, it's either usually the script or the fault of the voice acting director, caster, whatever. Because they make them redo lines if it's not good enough. So if anything, that kind of proves the point even more that it's not the VA's fault. It's very likely the person's fault that casted them or didn't put effort into making them redo the work.
Could be a lot of other things too. It might be the fault of the person who was directing that voice actor. Maybe they were given very specific instructions to deliver the line in this particular way. Maybe the writer who wrote that line wanted it delivered in this particular way, and the stage direction specified this particular line delivery. Okay. Maybe the recording equipment at the voice studio went down, and the only take they managed to get.
That is such a reach, man. That is such a reach to me. I feel like you can't even, like, if that happens, like, yeah, sure, but every single game is like that. I don't know, man. Find another studio. Find another VA studio. And to top it off, good point. No one is bitching about the delivery of the line. They're complaining about the fucking woke pandering. At least the gamers that they hate, the right-wing gamers, are the ones that are like, no, we don't want woke pandering. It's not the delivery.
Was this first one that was done just to set the tone, and they were just kind of out of time and stuck with it. So if you go and you start attacking the voice actor for a line delivery you don't like, it might not be them at all. It might be...
Again, I don't blame the person who voiced Tosh. I blame the writers that made them voice it. They made the VA, she, he, they, whatever. They made them say the words, "You smell good," and then growl into the mic, and then they said, yes, that was what we wanted! That's what I'm trying to say, bro. Again, it's not the VA's fault, it's the writer's fault, or the director's.
Something else. Indeed, it might not be the line delivery at all. Maybe the problem was the writing. So should you go attack the writer?
I mean, that's kind of how it works. I wouldn't say attack, but you should be able to criticize them and say, your shit sucks, do better. Again, attack is a strong word, and it's a very emotional thing to say. I don't think attacking someone over it is correct.
Well, no, because why was the line written in this way?
Oh my fucking god. Oh lord.
Is it written this way because the writer had a specific thing they were trying to say? Maybe. Maybe it was written this way because there was incredibly tight time pressures due to other externalities.
Bethesda's Obsidian Entertainment made Fallout New Vegas in what, like 8 months or something? When the project was supposed to take 2 years? I don't remember them having really bad dialogue in that game, and 9 months for a game like that is a massively strenuous... It was at 18 months? Okay, well, at any rate, that's still insane for a game like Fallout New Vegas. They didn't have that, man! And that was 20 years ago. Yeah, they probably had an even smaller team than before. It's just like, what?
On their time. Maybe the direction of the game changed radically 3 months ago, and they had to rewrite this entire character in just 3 months. And you're just getting the first draft of that writing. Maybe the lead writer wanted this character to be in a specific way. And
I just feel like with an RPG, the first and foremost thing is good writing in a character. That's like the first thing you should be prioritizing over everything else. I understand with like a cringe dialogue with, say, like Call of Duty, like I might understand it to some extent. Like, yeah, it's not the exact pinnacle of storytelling. COD is not. It has some moments that are amazing, but like, geez, man.
Constrain what the writer was able to do while they were writing this character. Maybe the creative director on the project had specific goals that they had in mind, and they were pushing the writing in a particular way. Or
at least you're being honest about that.
Restricting how much leeway the writers had in order to express their vision on what the game was able to do or be. Maybe the executive producer, all of these people reporting up into the executive producer, decided that this game should be different in tone and was pushing the game direction in a different way. Or maybe the leadership of this project changed.
We are coping, man. You know what this sounds like? When I remember when I was a kid, I get caught like stealing chocolate when I was supposed to not be like eating a piece of chocolate before dinner. And then I'd be like, Mom, you know, like, I just don't think you're right. And There was 3 little chocolates, not 4. It was 3. Like, I think you're just kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're making up excuses in your head on the fly as you're getting caught with the cookie in the jar.
Changed 6 times, and the direction changed 6 times, and you're getting little bits of writing from each of these different directions, and there was never adequate time to step back and rewrite it. Maybe the CEO of the entire company really wanted his nephew to be hired as a script consultant.
And that's a skill issue. Don't do that. That's part of the problem, the nepotism. Instead of, you're just proving my point.
And this guy with literally 0 experience was coming in and pushing for mandatory changes to the project. How realistic are all the things I just said? Some of them are incredibly realistic. Some of them not so realistic, but I've seen things that look an awful lot like all of the things I just said. So when you decided to personally attack that one specific person on social media, how certain are you that it was their fault, that they are responsible for that thing that you don't like? And I'm going to tell you right now, you shouldn't be certain, because you don't know exactly what was going on within the project. You don't know the exact circumstances.
So where are gamers or the customers supposed to go for accountability? I don't understand this at all. If there's 100 cooks in the kitchen, that doesn't mean I can't go criticize one of the cooks for making a shitty job. Like, I understand I have to go down the pipeline, but it's not really the customer's fault if you fucking overhire and get 100 cooks and then you still make a shitty dish. I don't understand. This logic doesn't make sense. And then when you don't buy the game, when the customer doesn't buy the game, or the gamer or whatever, you start to blame the customer for not enjoying the game. It's the gamer's fault, Chad. It's your fault. Yeah. This is a case of justifying our paychecks. Yes, because you overhired and then people get fired, and then you're trying to avoid every ounce of responsibility or accountability. Yeah.
That resulted in that thing you didn't
Kinda
like.
weird.
Even people who were on the project aren't always going to be absolutely certain on who is responsible for something being exactly a particular way. These projects have hundreds of people on them. Content moves around between multiple people. Unless I am the person who is actually responsible for something being a certain way, that chain of custody isn't always going to be super obvious to me. And all of this isn't to say that you aren't allowed to have your own opinions, to not like the things you don't like. It's specifically to point out that you being angry at a specific person.
But we've seen so many cases of these game dev people and the people who work on a game denouncing and saying that gamers are right-wing freaking white males, even when they're not. What are we really talking about here? If you denounced it and said, like, hey, this composer schizoed out and shit posted all over Twitter with our name attached, you would denounce it and be like, this guy's crazy. Why don't you do that then? Why would you throw away and alienate half your audience or a portion of your audience and say that your game isn't for them when you're trying to make money and keep people's jobs? But you're, like, not allowed to criticize them? Like, newsflash, boom! Bad publicity means your game won't sell well. Even in the case of, like, mouthwashing, some people were like, oh, damn, Asmund liked the game. And then the guy that was producing the music and was the CEO for the game itself at the time, or was it the company? I think it was the CEO of the company that produced the game or something. They had a meltdown on Twitter over Asmund liking the game and saying he was a piece of shit right-winger. And people are like, oh, that's kind of not the way you should have reacted. You should have been like, wow, thanks. Very cool. Or ignored it at the very least.
You attacking a specific person is often misdirected. Yeah. If you feel like you're just not getting the satisfaction from yelling at the corporate Twitter channel or yelling at the studio directly, if you feel like you need to focus it down onto an actual human being, I mean, that's really sad. I'm sorry. That's very sad. And hopefully you can grow beyond that. But I will give you a couple of outlets. If you need to complain at a human being, I'm going to say you don't get to go lower than the first person in the credits. You can go.
But what? The lower than the first person in the credits? So you're supposed to go after the director of the game or the... Wait, so you're shifting the responsibility on the game director instead of the writers or whatever if the writing's shit. Or the cast? Yeah, I don't even know. With the moral, fuck off with the moral grand standard, the boss to put a name on your work, you can be criticized. I am allowed to be criticized. People are allowed to send me like horrible emails. It might make me a little bit sad and be like, damn, I'm really disappointed, but I'm not gonna like turn myself into a massive victim and say, guys, can I get $10 million? I'm gonna lose my fucking marbles if you don't donate right now. Oh my god, but please come to my stream. What the fuck?
Go higher than that, but no lower than that. The first person in the credits is the person who was, theoretically at least, in charge of the project.
Good games will sell, even if they're woke, chat. It doesn't matter because people will enjoy it no matter what. There are people who write books that are quote-unquote left-leaning because they're just good books. Their purpose, these people's purpose in life, in these games, is to virtue signal and nothing more. Like, cry all you want. People are going to criticize you and not buy your game, and then you're going to have to lay off more of your staff. It's not that deep. Nah, sorry if someone involved with the game is having a schizo meltdown on Twitter about his game is for chuz, and I'm gonna race you on Twitter when your game flops. Yes, and people are allowed to do the opposite as well. It is, after all, Twitter. I won't deny that you're allowed to cry and be a vocal minority on Twitter itself. You're allowed to do that. It's called free speech. Holy shit. That's when you cross the line. Obviously, I don't agree with people telling them to kill themselves, but like, geez, dude. Sure, if the art is good in any form, people will go for it. Product good. It don't matter what game dev think about politics. Wow. It's almost like customer is just person who want to give you money for product. Wow, that's crazy.
They are the person where at least some of the responsibility is going to lie. Now, did they have full control over what was going on in the project? No, because you could still have the CEO of the company forcing them to use his stupid nephew as a script consultant.
Forcing, that's the problem though. If you are working for a company like that, you should call it out.
But at the very least, they were in charge of the project for a somewhat significant percentage of the time. So if you are mad about Anthem and we look at the credits, no shit, that's me. But yeah, if you feel like you need to yell at somebody for the way that Anthem is, it's much better to be yelling at someone like me who was theoretically in charge of the project, or at least in charge of the project for some of the development time, than yelling at someone who was working on the combat or the level design or what.
I absolutely disagree. I've had praises and also criticisms of people that worked on Blizzard games. I watched an entire little mini docu of the guy that designed the classes for World of Warcraft in Classic in 2004. Amazing dude, really crazy, like loves numbers and stuff. I praised him. I was like, damn, dude, this guy's really good at making video games, even for 2004. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be like, you should be able to praise and criticize someone directly for the work that they contribute to a game. Yes, Kevin Jordan was his name, yes. Nobody's throwing a dart at a board and adding them on Twitter. This person is kind of like, it's really blowing my mind how they think that other people function. Is this how they think that they should function as well? They're roasting him for having dogshit opinions in a public forum. Yes. Oh my God.
Ever. Because again, you don't know exactly what their reality was. When I was an executive producer, I got paid pretty well. And to some degree, from my perspective, some of that compensation was to act as a lightning rod for this negative discourse.
And I agree, because when No Man's Sky launched, the biggest figurehead that was at the front and center of the criticism was, what's his name? The one with the goofy smile? What is his name? God, Chet, help. Sean. Yes, Sean Murray. Sean Murray was the figurehead, and he took all the blame. But you know what he did? He took all the criticism, and he made it into a good game 2 years later, or 3 years later. He literally said, guys, I will take all the blame, and everybody else just shut down your social media. I will take the hits. I will put up shield wall, and I will do this for you while you work on the game, and I will take on the feedback. And I thought that that was a very noble and correct thing to do. Even if it sucks, he probably got death threats and stuff. I understand that really is horrible. But he did, like, he did a good job. They turned around the game. It turned out to not be so shit after all. The entire video could be summarized. Don't be cruel to our devs after they're openly cruelty on Twitter. I'm not even... I've already touched on the fact that there are people out there who unironically say gamers are only right wing and they're only white males. I'm supposed to believe that somehow. Like the vast majority. Even though somehow I'm supposed to be convinced of all the other data that people say, oh, well, 50% of gamers are females. Yeah, they're faking being females for sure.
It's one of the reasons why I think it is an executive producer's responsibility to have a social media presence. Because some of you, if you're still watching, will play a game and be angry about it and need to yell at a human being. And I think one of the executive producer's responsibilities is to protect his team. And part of protecting his team is providing that lightning rod. If you don't provide that lightning rod, then people who need to vent are going to find places to vent. We live in a social media world.
Sure.
Many people have some form of social media presence. If you, as the most senior person on the project, don't have a social media presence, then people are going to go and find someone else. Someone who isn't paid as well as you. Someone who doesn't necessarily have the tools to protect themselves from the toxicity that is leveled at them. I would say again that you shouldn't be targeting people directly, even the executive producer. But
then who are you supposed to send your criticism to? What? Yeah, zero personal accountability. Protecting your team is telling them not to fucking make accounts on Twitter. It makes no sense. Ugh. It's still just words online. Of course it is. Of course. I totally get it. But like, Jesus. Yeah, trying to dictate how people should direct their criticism and if it's criticism or not. What do you even define that as even?
You know what? If you feel the need, the higher up in the organization you go, the more I'm going to say have at her. As you get beyond the executive producer and you get up into studio leadership and group leadership and the C-suite and the person in charge of the entire corporation, they share responsibility in the game you don't like being the way that it is. So
yeah, but CEOs never have social media. Guys, Bobby Kotick to this day does not have any social media presence because of that reason. I remember, I think Asmund brought it up, the fact that Bobby has never made like a Twitter account or like a Facebook or anything. He's just sipping on his wine in his fucking massive McMansion and selling his 10th yacht over the phone.
if you feel the need to yell at them, again, probably don't, but they're big boys and girls, so they should be able to handle it. Now, the reality is, most of those people do not have a social media presence, do not have a way that you can yell at them directly. So a lot of times what I'm telling you is the least senior person you're allowed to yell at is the executive producer. And a lot of times the most senior person you're going to be able to yell at is the executive producer. So once again, the executive producer serves as a light.
And again, I can't help but feel how vague all of this, like, yelling and... Like, he hasn't used the word, like, criticize and stuff either.
Rod for all this vitriol. If you feel like you're not being listened to when you complain on Metacritic or you complain on the forums of a studio or you complain into the social media channels of the publisher or the studio, be aware that this stuff is carefully scrutinized, not just by the social media teams, also by the teams themselves. Arguably, in a lot of cases, to too great of a degree. The team is listening, I would say, often too much to what you are yelling about and complaining about in these channels. But don't worry, you don't need to go onto their Twitter channel and yell at them directly, because they're going to hear it anyway. Be a human being, have some empathy, and stop being cruel. Stop throwing a party because a bunch of people lost their jobs.
Why am I not allowed to do that? It sounds like a... Oh, God, these semantics are insane. No, I will not have empathy after you call all gamers names and directly insult them for their race or their gender. Sorry. I would say celebrating someone losing their job is, like, not even that bad in comparison.
Because you don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at. People deserve some grace, people deserve some empathy from you, and if you can't provide that, then stay off the internet completely. One last time for the cheap seats, you are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to be angry about a game that you bought. You paid good money for it. But try to remember that it's just a game.
Oh, here we go. The argument that it's just a game. It's just a game. It's just a movie. It's just a TV show. Yeah, the classic falling back on, like, it's just a game. Yeah, you paid money for it. $70 is a lot of money, man. Even by American standards, 70 American dollars.
More importantly, when you are expressing your complaints, stay away from cruelty, stay away from targeting individual people, stay away from trying to cause harm, stay away from celebrating harm done to actual human beings.
Yes, but losing your job is part of the consequence of not making a good enough game. And also, if anything, shouldn't you be mad at the corpos for firing you instead of the gamers? I actually just thought about that. Shouldn't you be mad at the corpos, the higher ups that have to slash your staff because they're not making enough money? Huh. It's kind of bizarre. You're not criticizing the ones that are above you instead of the ones that are the customers.
Express your opinion to the company that made your game. Tell them what you like. Tell them what you don't like. Be specific. It will help you get games that are more like what you want. But when you are personally attacking individual
okay, I have to pause you again. I'm sorry for pausing so much, but people have expressed it, and then they say the words, "This game isn't for you, go fuck yourself," and then nobody buys the game. Like, it's happened through, like, several games in the last couple of months.
You are crossing a line, and you're probably attacking the wrong person anyway. A special thanks to my members. They provide the resources that this channel needs to keep running. If you're interested in becoming a member, there is a link to that down in the description. We also have a Patreon if you are more comfortable supporting the channel in that way. Both Patreons and members get access to our community, so if you are interested in interacting with the community as a whole, that's an excellent way to do so.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I'm going to ask you to provide a comment on this video. We'll see what happens with these comments if they go...
Anyway, this guy got ratioed, by the way, 1,700 likes to 5,800, dislikes. Lots of people giving their opinion, and I don't know, man. He wouldn't say any of this if the developers that he was defending weren't insanely, like essentially insanely woke at this point. And I don't like using the term woke because it's very overused, but God, man, it is so insane to me that people saw what happened with Dragon Age the Veilguard and they said, hey, this kind of blows, how about you make a actually good game, a good RPG, and people are like, no, it's the right-wing gamers, we're returning to form, BioWare was always like this. It's like, oh my God, man. He's only defending the devs that want to virtue signal. Wasn't there a whole drama with Wolfenstein for including, Nazi iconography? And nobody said a damn thing, and then they had to, like, censor it or something? Maybe I'm misremembering. Yeah, a game that's about killing Nazis had to censor itself or, like, change something. It's just, like, kind of really far back. I'd have to remember, actually, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but... like, what are we doing, man? As we talked about this, yesterday was molding and writing manifestos in the comments. Scroll down. Current like-dislike ratio sitting at 15.2, but by the way, whatever dislike scraper many people are using seems to run pretty far behind. The number's higher than what you're seeing. That's true, actually. If you're coming in from your favorite streamer, can you at least watch a bit of the video before pushing the thumbs down and leaving a comment? I'd recommend watching the bits the streamers jumped over. I didn't skip anything except the ending where you talk about Patreon. Like, what? But he didn't? He's implying that Asmon did. I didn't watch Asmon reacting to it, but still. If you're here to say your game sucked, cool, watch the video. I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm here to say I didn't even buy your game, cool, whoop, with your wallet. Criticism is not harassment. Indeed not, almost like that's not what I'm talking about. Okay, but you didn't say directly, stop sending VA's death threats. You just said cruel and criticism or anger. Yeah. 12k comments. Wait, that's almost half of the views. Holy crap. He never gave examples? No, it's weird. He didn't in response to my previous message. He could prove it by posting a screenshot of the like-dislike on his end. Oh, yeah, he didn't. You're right. When the studio calls the gamers racist, transphobic, piece of shit, losers, and pathetic, and any other insult in the book just because they criticized a game, I've never seen someone from the industry making a video to protect the customer. But you want empathy and civility. Do you part and call out the bad apples in your industry as well? But we know you won't do that because you will be afraid of being blacklisted. You know what? That proves their point. What did he say? Pretty sure you came from a video doing exactly that. Oh my god, he's talking about the Aspen video! I'm assuming. Oh man. I don't think I've ever heard Aspen saying, go and brigade this guy's comments. Or like, to anyone, or go and shit on this person. That's crazy, man. Never. I would have fucking called him out on it too. Again, when Aspen's done something bad, I've called him out on it. I have. Take accountability. Take responsibility. And then people on both sides make generalizations, attribute the banners of a few apples to a whole bunch. Absolutely! Because that's like confirmation bias. You will always see the people who say bad shit about you. Like, I did that for a while where I would read YouTube comments and I would have like 100 nice comments. And then one comment that would tell me, you're a piece of shit, you sound fat or something. And I'd be like, oh damn. I mean, I have 400 pounds, but, you know, like, you probably shouldn't say that because that hurts my feelings. I'd be like, wah! And I'd feel bad for, like, 20 seconds. And then I realized, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't read the comments because it confirms my confirmation bias on my feelings. Asmon's bald and has no teeth. I'm sure there's people who write hundreds of comments saying that shit. Or are you defending bad apples? If you're a good apple, why die for someone who's rotten? I don't know. Virtue signaling, I suppose. Like, hey... Wee woo, ding dong, ding dong. Devs also get to lie about what's in their game, by the way, and not finish their game, make games filled with bugs, but you can't criticize them. Again, he never addressed anything in that vein. He just vaguely posted about people being mean to them. Then he brought up Anthem, which, funnily enough, I remember the amount of people that absolutely hated that game. They hated them. They were like, wow, you promised all this in Anthem, in the trailer, and in the gameplay, and it just ended up being an absolute shit post of a game. Anthem didn't work at all at launch. Yeah, and he was the fucking game director! I'm sure he got shit for it because he did a bad job. He okayed it. But then he's going to start deflecting and saying like, oh, well, you know, we had a time crunch. We didn't have time to do this. It's like, well, then who the fuck are we supposed to blame then? I don't get it. Anyway, sorry about the start. Like, the fucking article wouldn't play the video. Let's try to work that out. Didn't he quit afterwards? Yes, I think he quit and became a freelancing consultant or something. He's willing to stick out his neck for a game like Dragon Age the Veilguard 2. Of all things. Customers don't care about excuses, we just want good games. Yeah, imagine if the cook comes out and says, well, you know, I cooked you a really shitty piece of steak because my mom died yesterday. And it's like, I'm sorry to hear that, but you should probably call out of work or something. You should call out of work and take a break instead of going to work. But no, I need the money. It's like, well, then you're allowed to hear my criticism. No, you can't do that. Anyway. Good lord.